jump into a little bit of Q&A, we did put, obviously, you saw on our Instagram story and Facebook, a little Q&A. It's something we do for every guest, just in case there's some people out there that have some questions that maybe, aren't comfortable reaching out over direct message, or, or something that just came to their mind because they saw that we were asking. But there are a few questions for you. You're a pretty popular guy. I mean, I'll get a couple of I
The
don't
friend
know,
questions.
easier ones out of the way.
Yeah.
But Zach Brown wants to know. I think actually you even replied to this already online. But why do you wear sunglasses so often? Because I mean, honestly, when he commented that, like, I know, like, it's Zach. Like, he's obviously being sarcastically, like, Zach. But like, it's true. You wear sunglasses all
Sure.
the time in your
Yep.
content.
Yep.
It's a fair
Um,
question, Zach.
yeah, it is. So it's I've made a point of not wearing sunglasses indoors or during any indoor content, like a Little John kind of thing. Like I don't bring it to other parts of my life, but in the outdoor environment, I'm basically just protecting my eyes. My eyes are super sensitive to the light, so I I started wearing pretty dark sunglasses years ago, because I was always stepping outside and it was like, it was kind of crazy and hard on my eyes, and I just hated the feeling of it, and it was really stressing my eyes out. So having a good, 7 or 8 pairs of sunglasses around at all times is important to me, and I wear them driving, I wear them cooking, I wear them like it's great eye protection too. There's been many times where I'm hiking through the bush or on a quad or a sled or something like that, and I get whacked in the
Branch
face,
in the
and
face.
yeah, and it's like it has protected my eyes in a lot of different ways. But I just can't stand, like, I actually have a hard time seeing when my eyes are watering and just not able to handle the sunlight properly. So it actually is purposeful.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not because I'm trying to be cool. It really, I wish that was the case, but it's just I'm like an old man that has the big thick doctor prescribed glasses on, because otherwise my eyes would burn out of my face.
Yeah. So Zach thought he was being
You're
funny
only
there.
36.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, he thought he was being funny, but he was actually taking a poke at my disability, which I don't appreciate.
I'll say I'll agree.
Okay, well,
one sec, Brad. I'll
we got
agree. I'll agree with Josh there that getting into the habit of wearing sunglasses is so important. Like, especially for that we're mostly a fishing based podcast. Like, that's one thing I've always been told since I was young from my dad and his fishing buddies is
Huge.
wear your glasses out there, because you never know when you're like trying to lift up a fish and that hook's gonna pop, or you're dealing with someone who hasn't. Like, I've noticed a lot. Anytime that I've got a fish in the net, bail's open and that line's free, right? But lots of time when you're going to deal with other people's fish is that thing's reeled right up to the top and they're trying to lift that fish up, and that thing is so taut that if that went flying, hit you in the eye or something, even if you don't get the hook in the
Oh
eye,
yeah,
if that
so
jig
common.
head hits you, yeah. So I agree with you. Zach can kick
Yeah.
rocks on that one. It's
Pull-
important.
Yeah, kick rocks, Zach. Polarized lenses, though, if you're like pike fishing, or I mean even like sight fishing at all, polarized lenses are
Huge. Yeah, it makes
clutch.
such a big difference. Yeah, I try to wear polarized glass anytime I'm doing. I mean, most of my lenses are anyway, but it's so important on the water, and especially just even eye protection wise. The reflection off the water is crazy some days, and ice fishing, it's unreal. Like, you can hardly see out there.
Yeah.
So it just makes it so easy. And I always find myself buying an extra, maybe it's an extra like half
6
hour or
pairs.
something. No, not that. Just buying myself more time. I get more time out of
Yeah.
the day, because it usually gets dark on me quicker than anybody else. And by the time I pull my sunglasses off, it's now bright again, and it's not an hour away from sunset like I thought it was going to be. I've got an extra like hour and a half, so it's always a bonus.
Yeah, I've had that for sure before. Where
Crazy.
you're wearing your sunglasses and you're like, man, this day is ending pretty quick, and you almost get into that gloomy feeling
it's
of like
dark
the
out.
sun's going down. You take them off, you're like, oh my goodness, I still got time in the day, and
Jeez.
it's actually pretty nice now.
Yeah, there's
Sheesh.
it's the best, man. I'm a big fan of the extra half hour you get with sunglasses.
Okay, we got Zach's out of the way. That was a
difficult.
non-fishing
Yeah.
outdoor.
Well,
Yeah,
I
don't
got
know.
I got one
Anywho,
here now that I
look,
know how
you
to
got one?
pronounce his name. We got Kevin here. with the
Yes.
question of supposed to ask you,
Kevin.
yeah, Kevin to everyone else, Kevin to his parents, asked if it's called a walleye or a pickerel.
Oh man, this is the question of all questions. Up in Lundar, where Kevin lives, it's a pickerel, and I think it's a walleye to. You know, I shouldn't say to everybody else. Walleyes, I used to call them pickerel when I was a little child, and then I grew into a man, and now I call them walleyes. And it's, you know, most of my fishing that I did was in Ontario, northwestern Ontario. When I was a kid, we had a cottage out there, and that's all we fished was pickerel, and we called them pickerel. And now here, there's a mass, you know, amount of people that call them pickerel still yet, and I call them walleyes because it's a walleye. A pickerel is not a pickerel, and when you see
A, pi-
on
a
like
pickerel is not a walleye, but a pickerel is a pickerel.
correct, yeah, a real pickerel is a pickerel, chain pickerel, and we don't have those
Yeah.
here. And walleyes, a real walleye is a walleye, and there's no confusing the two. And the only thing that I've realized over the years is that if you look on the Facebook fishing forums and stuff, most people can spell walleye. There's a lot of different variations of pickerel out there, and so like I'm even confused as to like why these people are even calling it pickerel. Like I've seen Piku or Yurul, like pickerel, and it's like who taught these people how to spell pickerel?
Yeah.
So it's like just walleye's easier to spell. It rolls off the tongue real nice, and it's like, man, just call them walleyes. It's so easy.
Yeah.
It just sounds. Oh, it's just music to the ears. This is a part of the podcast. If my dad is not tuning in to this episode, I'm going to make sure that he listens to this portion
Yes.
because
Send him a
it could be like an older generation thing too. But yeah, it's pickerel. Like, you know, we're going out, we're gonna catch some picks, and I'm just like, no, Dad, we're gonna go catch some walleye, and it's like, nope, they're pickerel, and yeah, it's
I think it's
a
something that you
constant-
have to take a hard stance on too. You know, you're either a pickerel guy
Yeah.
or you're a walleye guy. Kind of like the whole Pepsi and Coke thing, and you're one or the other, and that's sort of it. But the reality is, it's a walleye, and you can't.
That's that.
You know, if you're looking at the Manitoba Master Angler Program, there aren't any pickerel on there at all.
There you go. That's the deciding factor.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
And on the Saskatchewan Master Angler Program.
They're walleye as well. Nice plug.
I don't know. Josh, I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but we have a Master Angler program.
Okay, yes. It's newer though, yes?
Very new.
Yeah, like a couple months.
Okay, yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah. I think you guys probably took a couple pages out of the Manitoba book because it's a pretty lofty program.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So actually, I think it's episode 11. We actually sit down with James, which is from the Saskatchewan Wildlife Federation.
Okay.
And he's kind of the brains behind that, and he even touched on in that episode that he kind of heavily based it off of a lot of structural things that Manitoba had in place.
Which I think is a good idea.
It's just a great program.
Yeah. So
I love that program.
It gets people fishing, and it gets people so excited about fishing. It really does. I engage with it a lot less.
It gets the people going.
Yeah.
It does, yeah, it does. I engage with it a lot less than I used to. I've just become way more of a casual angler, and it's an unreal program. You know, like you see kids getting into it, and you know, getting their folks to take them out fishing as often as possible, which puts a lot of cash back into the economy. And grown adults, you know, like going from lake to lake to lake to lake every weekend, picking a different lake, trying to catch the biggest of something. And that little reward, I mean, it's not much, but you get like a pin in the mail and a certificate, and you can
bragging rights,
and you know your information's on the app right away as well, so you can see who's catching what, when, and where, and see who's like kind of on the leaderboards and whatnot. And it's a fun little sort of ongoing tournament thing that's just constantly available, and everybody sort of gets a participation ribbon for it if you hit the minimum. And some of those fish, you know, like the minimums are really difficult.
Yep.
If you're fishing for catfish, you can get your specialist, like 6 masters in a day, pretty easily. You could catch those in an hour sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think the size on the catfish needs to be amended a little bit, but everything else, man, it's right there. Like northern pike of a lifetime is right at that mark. Like 42 or 43 inches, whatever it is. You're not catching those every weekend.
Yeah.
And that's a pike of a lifetime, and our walleyes, we're pretty fortunate to have an amazing walleye fishery, but 28-inch walleye is a big fish. That's huge, and you're not catching those in too many places. And to be able to have your name on a record book to catch one is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think 28 inches is, not that big, but it is not. Not a lot of people in their lifetime are going to catch a 28 plus walleye, and that's just kind of how it is. But obviously there's the guys that can go out there and every other weekend can put a big fish in the boat.
Yep.
But 28, that's a big fish.
Yeah.
It is. It really is. Yeah, and you get spoiled too. Like when we have them so close here, catching a 26 or a 27 even is like, it's not that big. But it's ridiculous. Yeah. Like a 24-inch walleye is big. That's a giant walleye,
Mm-hmm.
And when you've seen and held like 30s and 32s, it doesn't even seem real. Like this can't be a walleye. But again, we're just really fortunate to have a fishery that produces those types of fish really close by, which is really cool.
Yeah. And that's very similar for us too with a Diefenbaker or a Last Mountain, and then a bit further away with Tobin, right? Like those fish are a real opportunity. But I think, like you said, it for lots of the kids like it, and I would say even for us, like when I mentioned the trip that we did to Manitoba in August, like we had the day we were leaving, we obviously had to drive back because we were leaving, but we had about a half day that we could fish. It was either get up early and hit Clearwater, or go back to the smallmouth lake we were at, because my one buddy needed one more for his 5. My other buddy just wanted to catch a master, and I think I had 1 or 2 at that point. So we left Clearwater Lake trout to go and filter through another 70 smallmouth to get the one buddy's first one and the other guy his 5th one. So it's kind of it just adds something different, right? Something to do with it. So that's why I'm excited about the Saskatchewan one, because it's still in its infancy, but it's just another aspect on top of it, right? That you get to. It's not just going out and nothing comes out at the end of the day. You might come out with a master angler, right, and get that reward kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's not inclusive, or it's very inclusive and not exclusive to the local audience. You can come in from the U.S. or from Ontario or from BC or Saskatchewan, and you can participate in the program, which is really sweet.
Yeah, I don't know if you're on the program yet, Brandon, but I'm currently ranked 5,200, so I'll have to have a little competition there. I don't know.
No, I have not registered anything in Manitoba. I try to stay away from that place. It's dirty.
The fishing is amazing.
You know what's unreal is a friend of mine. His name's Ricky Forbes. He's kind of a local celebrity out there. He's
from
Saskatoon.
Tornado hunter.
Yeah.
We were together a couple of years back, and we were giving each other the gears on Manitoba versus Saskatchewan, and all of the same things that people from Manitoba say about Saskatchewan, he had the exact same lines but flipped around about Manitoba. And it blew my mind that, like, Manitoba or Saskatchewan's so flat, you can watch your dog walk away run away for 2 years, or, jokes about kissing your auntie or something like that. And all of a sudden, they're the same jokes, like back and forth, and they just flip different ways. I'm like, we're all the same people here, man. There's nothing to really argue here. We're all flat prairie dwellers, and the only reason we're beaking at each other is because we both kind of live in fairly nondescript provinces that we need to celebrate and love for what they are, and prize because we've got each other and some kind of cool opportunities. We don't have mountains, but we've got some Canadian Shield, and that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a big thing, is driving to, well, it goes for either province, like you said. I think that we should just get along because we are the same, and we have some special stuff in the fact that we take when we went and did a Selkirk trip last year, That was kind of a boring drive. I won't deny it. It was boring from Moose Jaw all the way to Browning. It was all the same. But then totally switch it up. We go up north a lot in
Yeah.
Saskatchewan, totally different. We went up north to Clearwater, totally different, right? So I think people
Yeah,
just need
yeah.
to explore a little more is the main thing.
That's definitely it. Like the landscapes in both of our provinces are so diverse, and if you're stuck in the city and never go outside, you'll never realize that there's so many opportunities and amazing things to see. Like I've been around a lot in this province, and there's so many things I've yet to see. I've been to Churchill, and I've been to all of the corners, and there's endless amounts of things that still amaze me every time I see them. I was in a new place today that's only an hour and 20, an hour and a half from home, and I'd never seen it before. There's a cool little lake in cottage country, and it was beautiful, and I'd never been there. I saw like 50 wild turkeys on the side of the road, and I was pretty excited.
Yeah, exactly. You just gotta get out. Like I can drive an hour one way and there's huge walleye. I can drive an hour and a half. There's huge rainbows. There's huge walleye. I can go 20 minutes out of town and I can see a herd of 60 elk. Like you just gotta go out and explore, right? But lots of
Yeah,
people don't leave the little city limits area, and I mean,
that's right.
feel kind of bad for them, right? Because maybe like you said, they weren't brought up with it, and you don't know what you're missing out on, right? But I never get it when people say they don't
That
like these places, but that's my own little.
to,
Yeah,
to
they're
each their
wrong.
own.
Yeah.
We're not here to discriminate, Logan.
No,
Okay.
no, no.
I'm not a city person, so I don't care.
Okay. Next question. This one comes from past guest Lane Meyer. I don't. Do you know Lane at all?
Yep, yep.
There you go. Yeah. He wants to know: is there anything that you will not eat?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Specifically, probably wild game specific, but
Yeah, yeah, because there's lots of things out there.
yeah, there's lots of things.
So many things. Wild game wise, there's.
You'd probably eat anything with catch and cook on it, eh?
Yeah, if you can coat it and deep fry it, it's good, and it doesn't matter what it is. But yeah, you know what? There's not a lot that I don't like. It more so comes down to um, like the preparation thing. Is like if it's not prepared properly, then I probably
Yeah.
there could be like I wouldn't eat a piece of venison if it was prepared poorly, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
most things I think if I could sit down and think it through, I would probably eat it. Like an armadillo or something. We were talking about Jay and I were talking about this because we're planning a trip. It might still be a secret. I'm not sure, but we're planning a trip somewhere where they might or may not have armadillo in the region, and
Oh.
we're thinking, man, if we came across one of these things, I don't know if they're legal to eat or not, but like, would you eat one or like a possum or what? One of these weird rodent critters, and I don't know. Like, it seems one I don't know.
Wrong.
Yeah, it just seems a little strange, and I mean, if I had to, I'd eat anything really. Um, but
Even Zach Brown's cat.
I'd for sure I'd eat cat in a heartbeat.
Especially Zach's.
Specifically Zach's.
Yeah, I'd give cat a try for sure. The one thing though that I can't do, and if it was in front of me and prepared well, I'd probably eat it and enjoy it. But I can't do turtles. I got some sort of soft spot for turtles, and when people show like
Because you love turtles?
ooh, I
Or-
love turtles. Yeah, it's like no, I just don't know. Like it's I just can't see like why would someone harm a turtle? You know, so I just can't I can't get my head around that one. Like fried alligator, snapping turtle. Like I just
Have you ever had just like really like random here, have you ever had kangaroo?
I have yep.
In Banff at the
Yeah.
Grizzly House. That's where I had it.
No, I had it in Australia.
You got it at the real
There's
place.
a-
Correct.
Yeah, that's insane. There's a restaurant in Winnipeg that used to sell. They had it on the menu, and I had it there. But there's a joint in town here that sells really good local meats, and then they sell some imported stuff too. And you can buy
Yeah.
gator and like I can get if I ever buy venison or elk or anything for an event, I can buy it through them, and it's farmed. But
Nice.
they sell kangaroo and some unique meats as well. So yeah, I've had kangaroo sausages and stuff, and they're great.
So is that I guess
Interesting.
one thing, because I got that from my dad with when I was trying the crane. It lots of people, I think there's a big disconnect with where your food comes from, and what you're
Yeah.
eating kind of thing. And so that's something that I've definitely had it. Like I made last year, made like a rabbit stew, and after I mean, I'd also had it for 3 days in a row, but I was kind of like, sometimes it gets in your head, right? But that might just be me being newer to hunting as well. But I do like a lot better when there is that, where the food came from, right? Like that's a huge thing. So with you and the turtles, is that you just can't get that idea that it's a turtle out of your head, or you don't like the flavor of it?
Yeah, I don't think flavor has anything to do with it. It's just, dang, I like turtles. Like I think they're cool. They're a cool animal, and you know how easy it is to catch a turtle.
True.
Like
Not much not much of a chase.
I don't know, man. They're pretty fast.
they're so helpless. Like, man, I don't want anything to do with killing a turtle. I just feel too bad. I would lose karma points for that. I feel so. And I don't have many to spare. So
Uh-oh.
no, I just couldn't see myself doing it. Here's an interesting one. Is this is a bit of an aside, but it's topical. Is that on Friday in 2 days? There's a friend of mine who invited me on not a hunt but a harvest of semi-wild bison.
Oh,
A fella who farmed them years ago still has some, and they kind of run wild on his property, and they're a farmed animal. But
Yeah.
he needs to, as he's retiring and getting out of the game, he needs to do something with these things. So we put out the offer to come and harvest a couple and break them down. And I'll probably be spending all day Friday and all day Saturday doing that. And I think I got the invite because I can butcher an animal.
they're using you.
Otherwise,
Are
yeah,
you going to be Are you going to be documenting this?
yeah. We're gonna do photo stuff. I'll have my camera and stuff like that there. We're not gonna film anything that day. But man, how often does somebody get the opportunity to, harvest a historical critter like that
Yeah.
and put some cool meat in the freezer?
Semi-wild.
Yeah, semi-wild. Like they don't like the presence of humans, right? Which is like pretty interesting.
No.
I eat quite a bit of bison, and there's a really cool farm
I,
that I do some stuff with.
bison burgers are
So good.
like
But I'm like, man, now
Oh.
I get to try like a bison liver, and I get to get a bison heart, and I'll probably do something with the tongues, and it's like kind of a unique opportunity to, do something with the unique little bits.
Mm-hmm.
see, and that's where the whole tongue heart thing doesn't really fly with me.
Organ meats.
Tongue's supposed to be the best. And it's supposed to be a lot better for you. Or not better.
Tongue
Tongue and heart is like turtles to me.
Okay,
Yeah, but if
I can see that. Yeah. It's
If they're just so helpless.
yeah, the tongue especially is so helpless, and it's a texture thing, like organ meat is a
Yeah.
really difficult one for people to get over, and I totally understand that. I would never like push somebody to eat anything that was strange like that. But yeah, like a good like wild game liver pate, or put it in a meat pie with some other ingredients. It adds
just to kind
a
of
lot
mask
of
it.
really cool flavor, and yeah, not even to mask it so much, but just tone it down
Okay.
somewhat, because liver is pretty powerful, especially if you're not used to it. I really appreciate the flavor of it, but a lot of people don't. So it tastes like the animal, like the core of the animal, like its soul is probably in the liver, and it tastes like that.
Yeah.
And but at the same
That's
time,
deep.
it is deep because you're getting the most nutrients out of a liver too. So it's it kind of is, man. It's like whenever you get a stinky old buck, and it's got that rutted up smell going on its hindquarters there, the liver is just that times 10
Oh,
plus
great.
iron and vitamins and all this other crazy stuff. Like it's got a powerful aroma, but man, it's like drinking Buckley's when you have a cold. Like it's the worst stuff, but it's gonna do the trick, right?
Yeah.
So you sort of have to like muscle through it and appreciate it for what it is. And I love that part of food. Like I don't like a lot of like weird rotten foods. Like fermented foods I'm cool with, but there's some cultures that, you know, eat some weird, strange, rotten stuff, which I can't necessarily get behind. But when it comes down to like different, unique, odd flavor profiles of food, I really love that. So liver is one of those things that's not consumed really often, um, and especially like for me, like I only eat it when I have a animal,
Yeah.
and I'm looking forward to trying the bison one. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's like, it's for me, that's not really the thought of it, because the thought of it being a heart, the tongue, I gotta admit that would probably, I'd still want to try it, but that would be in the back of my head. But I think the big thing is the, like you said, you that's where that's what the kind of what the animal smells like or whatever. That's what it's kind of going to taste like, at least with the liver. But that's where I'd be
Yeah,
willing to eat it, because you said like the nutrients and stuff. Like I've been seeing some stuff about liver based diets or liver supplemented diets and stuff. And
huge man.
yeah, so I would be trying it
So
for
many
the
vitamins
nutrients.
and
Yeah,
yeah, it's just great. And like I'm so over, and I've maybe always been over the whole thought of like organ meat and tongue and it being like, oh, it's in the animal's mouth and it eats through that thing. I've just never thought of things that way.
yeah,
So like when I see a tongue, I'm like, oh man, that's a nice piece of meat. Like how can we cook that thing up? But I understand that it's a huge factor for a lot of people, to consider tongue being strange because it's an organ, and heart being strange because it's it pumps blood through this animal. So it's something that I think you get over the more you try it. But it's different meat. It's not like a steak like you're used to eating. The texture is
yeah,
completely different. The flavors unique for sure.
yeah. Well, I got my first deer last year, but didn't keep any of that stuff. But I just bought my whitetail tag before this, so I think I'm going to try at least the heart and the liver for sure. At least keep
Yeah.
those and try them out in different ways, and then it will be a game time decision on the tongue. I know I've seen from Meat Eater and stuff that it's like one of their favorite parts of any hunt is
Oh
getting
yeah.
to eat that after, but we'll have to see. I have my own like game freezer. It stays separate of the family's other freezers with everything, so no one would care if there was
Yeah.
a tongue in there. But
Yeah.
we'll have to see.
It's the tongue is way less odd than the liver even.
Yeah,
Actually, even than the heart, the tongue is the least odd piece. Aside from the fact that it's super tough and you have to cook it for a long time, before kind of adding some like you got to boil the heck
yeah.
out of it to soften it up and whatever. But it's probably the least offensive piece out of all of them. Liver's definitely different, and deer liver especially. Deer liver's a little bit different, but I highly encourage you to give it a go. It's I think it's delicious. It's just different, is all.
We'll add that to the list. Was it
Yes,
your
sir.
turn, Brandon, or my turn?
I think I just asked Lane's question about is there anything that he wouldn't eat?
Oh, yeah.
Turtle.
And
Final
yeah,
answer.
turtle.
No, I think
Okay.
I think one thing that I wanted to ask, and it kind of goes into a question that our very first guest, Shayna Hamilton, I was talking to her today, and she was kind of wondering. Um, Mine kind of went around: are you a recipe guy, or are you more of a like what you think might taste good together? Like I don't follow recipes much. I kind of just put some things together and try new things and see what it works out. And then that
Yeah.
kind of goes into her question of where do you kind of get, I guess, your inspiration for your dishes and stuff.
Yeah, I don't use recipes well, and the I make recipes with you know
Do you have a cookbook available?
no, I do not, and
Oh.
I'm toying with working on something, and it would definitely be part of me feels like it would be digital based, and the other part of me thinks it'd be more of like an instructional than an actual recipe book, because I think that there's pieces that if somebody needs to follow a recipe with exact measurements and things, there's probably a certain set of tools that are missing, and I don't think that you need
Yeah.
to. So when somebody sees like half a tablespoon, it's just they're locked on that rule all of a sudden, and they can't see outside of it without thinking that, oh man, if
Yeah.
I accidentally spill a little extra flour into
It's
this,
ruined.
yeah, it's like, and it's not like you can make changes, and like too much salt could affect something, but There's so many ways that you can work around that, and I think again it comes to uh, equipping yourself with the right skills and knowledge to understand those workarounds, and that understand that food is kind of a fluid thing.
Hmm.
Um, in some ways, anyhow. So I do make recipes, especially for the Huntfish Manitoba stuff. We have recipes, but personally, it just comes down to time. Like I screwed up a lot of food to learn that you don't do this or you do this, or halfway through I'll realize I'm doing something wrong and realize that it's a time to make a game time decision and turn it into something else, or throw it out and start again, right? So it's kind of an experience thing, but there's a lot that you can learn, and I'm trying to get back to the core of the question here.
I guess just where you get
Uh,
where you get your, I don't even know
yeah,
what the word
so
is.
yeah, following recipes, no, but I maybe if it's something new, I will. But the right now, most of my inspiration, I've gathered for most of my cooking career a lot of inspiration from Asian type foods and dishes and cuisine, and I really favor those flavors.
They like turtles.
Yeah, there's might be a community there that loves turtles, and that's okay. I could probably find a really good turtle recipe there somewhere. But it's yeah, like inspiration right now sort of comes from, hey, this is a common food somewhere, or maybe it's a common North American food. What would that be like with some wild game in it? And what would that be like with fresh ingredients rather than like a canned tomato sauce? What if I just made it and put something unique in there from the garden? So that's kind of like the direction I'm going with a lot of things right now. Not all of that is reflected in what I do with Huntfish Manitoba, because we try to keep things very approachable.
Hmm.
And if you're the average hunter, you're probably going to go to the store to buy a can of spaghetti sauce to make a pasta dish rather than make it on your own, and that's totally okay. There's amazing stuff out there that you can buy that's pre-made. But the key is to just try something different and unique. And when it comes to my personal brand stuff, I try to go outside of the box a lot, and you don't see a lot of the stuff that doesn't turn out. That might be amazing and it might be unique, but it just didn't play it up properly or whatever. But it's all putting something into practice so that I can make some changes and perfect it along the way. Um, but yeah, inspiration comes from what's within my reach, what's accessible, and other cultures, man.
Hmm.
Like other cultures make. I mean, Canadian culture is other culture.
Yeah.
Like there's no Canadian culture;
Yeah.
it's everything, and I absolutely love that. So my favorite restaurants ever since I was a kid have been like pho restaurants and Thai restaurants and um, Vietnamese restaurants, and that's the kind of stuff that really gets me excited. We've got a few amazing like Turkish and Lebanese type restaurants and stuff around here, and those types of foods really inspire me. I've got a new wood fired pizza oven in my outdoor kitchen now, and man, I'm looking at like old world recipes where like people actually used to cook with wood in stone ovens, and that's the type of stuff that's really getting me fired up right now. So yeah, inspiration comes from food culture, man.
Hmm.
That's it. Like, and some of the stuff you'll see that I do is a little. It may look and seem a little more modern, but it's really simple, uh, fairly approachable stuff. I may not explain some of it in that way, but it looks pretty sometimes. But I really like basic rustic food that is fairly approachable that people can recreate if they felt like it, but they won't get a recipe.
Yeah. Well, and that's like just going back to the first episode. It's outside the box, right? Recipes, I think, are kind of inside the box.
Yeah, I hate rules of all sorts, and recipes look like a list of rules to me, and I think that that's looking at food incorrectly. Food should be whatever you kind of have accessible and can put in your hands and chop up. If you learn how to chop something properly, uh, and like the size of your dice and your cut and stuff like that, that can transform a dish completely. So I think those types of skills are more important. Like how to cut an onion 10 different ways is more important than how to cook that onion, because you're missing step 1 to 10 before you're even putting it in the pan. And a lot of recipes will just say, hey, cut an onion and put it in a pan. Well, how, right? And how am I cooking that thing?
Yeah.
So I think if I were to lean towards that, it would be a lot of method and procedure before getting into even cooking something.
Yeah,
and that's why I like fire cooking a lot. And my series that I'm working on called Fed by Fire, little symbol up here, it reflects that. It reflects the creative thoughts that go through my head when it comes to food, and also just shows the ability to get outside, find something that's growing somewhere or a part of an animal, and cook it over a fire in a really kind of cool way, and make something that's restaurant quality food, but made in a really rustic environment.
Yeah, I think those always do well. You see lots of people doing that kind of stuff, right? On TikTok or whatever, or YouTube. There's no talking, there's no nothing. This guy's out by a river somewhere. He's made some kind of bread. He's got this really cool knife that you've never seen before, and he's chopping up all these veggies and makes some
catch and cook knife.
Yeah, well, there you go. You've got a catch and cook knife.
Well, it's all that ASMR stuff, like Almazan Kitchen or whatever, and it's always like Swedish guys for some reason, it seems like, or guys like Scandinavian fellas, but those are crazy. And there'll be one simple video of a guy making a grilled cheese sandwich by a creek, and it has 28 million views for some reason. Like, how the heck?
It's cooked over a burning log.
But there's a lot of bored people out there watching recipe content on the toilet.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where you get the catch and cook knife in there. There's some advertising for you.
Yeah, that's one of the big things coming down the line, just weird cooking videos with that knife.
Yeah. Versatile.
Unreal. Looking forward to it.
Yep.
On to the next. With walleye, not pickerel, with walleye being one of the most common fish around the prairies here that people will consume, what is one way, if you could only cook walleye one way for the rest of your life?
Catch and cook.
What would it be? And it can't be catch and cook.
Oh, yeah, that was a clause.
Dang it. So what's one way I would cook it all the time?
Yeah, what is your favorite way to cook walleye? Like, if you had to choose one way that you could eat walleye for the rest of your life.
Oh man, I'm bad at a one thing kind of guy. Can I pick two?
I guess
similar.
We could roll this into Zach's question.
Yeah, true, very true.
Yeah, so known as ZC Angling on Instagram, he asked, what is the most complex? One of the most complex ways to cook it? Or I guess he says fish, but we'll say walleye for this. And then I guess what would be your best?
Complex. Okay, well here, I'm just going to start with something. I did a video last winter with Huntfish MB, and we did it out on the lake. I used like a propane pizza oven that I brought out onto the ice while we were fishing. So we catch a walleye, cut it up, and immediately throw it in a parchment paper cute little pocket with fresh tomato and corn salsa that I made. So that all kind of goes in there together. You close it up, throw it in the oven. It steams in all of that like beautiful lime and tomato liquid. There's onion and stuff like that in that salsa as well. And it just sort of steams that walleye. And when it comes out, I have a hard time finding other words aside from flaky to describe fish, because it's the only word that everyone seems to use. But it's all tender and flaky and all real nice and juicy. And you can just eat it with taco chips. And it's a phenomenal different way to eat walleye that it's almost like snack food, but it's extremely healthy. There's really nothing in it that's bad for you. It's all just super fresh ingredients. Maybe the taco chips, but aside from that, it's unbelievable. And you could put that on pasta. You could eat it with rice. You could eat it with taco chips, and it's unbelievable. So that video is out there. It's on the Huntfish Manitoba YouTube channel and on their website. So that's a really great one. And one that I've been doing for a long time is making a real depthy tomato sauce and just floating raw walleye on top and then baking it in the oven. So you get this baked fish that sort of starts to soak up some of that tomato sauce, and I'll scoop that out or spoon it out of the pan afterwards and put it on top of some, whether it's like a handmade pasta or something that's been like store bought and boiled. That's an amazing way to eat walleye. So fairly non-traditional ways, but great, really really great.
There you go.
Wow. Those do sound pretty dang.
And
those sound pretty good.
What was the Zach question?
What?
Complex.
That wasn't the complex one?
Oh no, those are just like hey, like pretty straightforward. I mean, the tomato one is let's call the tomato one complex because the tomato recipe or the tomato sauce recipe that I use has like all kinds of cool stuff in it. Like there's lots of Parmesan and balsamic vinegar, and I like to put olives in there, and there's a lot of layers to it. Red wine, it just the flavor profile goes up and up and up. But that's a pretty complex walleye dish, I guess, and it's good. The other thing is walleye scaled with the skin on and seared in a pan. Amazing. So many people will just fillet that skin off, and this like walleye with skin on is unbelievable. I would highly recommend trying with the skin on, but you got to take the scales off first.
There you go.
Which is
not that hard.
A dirty job too. Not that hard. I hate being covered in scales.
Yeah, that part sucks. You want to do that part at the lake. Just scale them and put them in a bag and bring them home, or take the fillets off. But scale them at the lake, and you don't want to be wearing scales because they'll. For some reason, they find places to hide on your skin for like a week, and it's so awkward when you find one later on. But scaling it, and then
we won't get into that.
Yeah, exactly. Scaling the walleye and searing that skin side down, like season it and sear it skin side down in a hot pan, and that skin gets really crispy and it's so flavorful. It's really cool, different way to do it, and it's delicious.
I'm doing that up north next year in the cast iron over the fire.
Yep, absolutely. Best way to do it.
Sweet. Well, what do we have any more here? We've had you. I guess this will be part 2, so almost for 2 hours, and you're also it's 10:30 there, so.
There's a couple more, but the one I think we have to ask is from Huntfish, Manitoba. Before we let you go, it's from Huntfish, Manitoba.
Oh wow.
They say ask him if he ever burns French fries.
If I what? If I do what with French fries?
Ask him if he ever burns French fries.
Oh my gosh. So that's Kevin. And so there's a funny story behind that. I don't even know if that recipe's out, but we did like a wild game, just different ways to use ground wild game, and made a really great simple chili. And then we put that chili on prepared French fries in a cast iron pan and baked them in the cast iron pan with some cheese on top and everything. They were phenomenal. I was distracted the day that we were doing those recipes, most likely by Kevin himself, and the first batch burned in the pan. So instead of throwing those out, I threw them on a plate because I didn't want to waste what had gone on, and I started a second batch, which turned out perfectly because I was not distracted and was paying attention to things. And over the course of that 20 minutes of cook time, the plate of burnt fries disappeared.
Oh.
And Kevin was standing there with hot chili sauce all over his face. So I assume that he's the one who ate them. And so that's the answer to the question. Kevin eats burned French fries and doesn't seem to mind at all, as long as there's some really good chili on top.
There you go. Yeah, I think Kevin the burnt French fry eater is what we'll know him as now. But I think that was a good one to end it on. But this one I think kind of wraps the whole 2-part thing together. I'm guessing your answer is probably going to be you enjoy the whole process, but Luran Outdoors
catch and cook.
Kind of. It's going towards that. Luran Outdoors says, do you like catching more or cooking more?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's so hard to say. Like I think, um, man, such a good question. Really, like I don't have an answer. It's all of it, right? It's the whole. For me, it's the whole thing. You don't cook unless you catch.
Hmm.
And cooking is definitely something that's relaxing for me, and I get to express some creativity and whatnot. But it is almost stressful in a way, like at times too, when you're making something, because everything has to come together. Especially if you're taking a photograph of it, or if you're preparing something for people. There's a lot of stressors there that don't exist when you're catching.
Hmm.
Catching's
Yeah.
pretty relaxing. Um, and so like maybe catching's definitely more therapeutic, and mentally freeing. Like I don't take care of my mental well-being by cooking too often, but I do that through the catching process. And the cooking process is just a way to celebrate the catching part, right?
Yeah, yeah. The catching's
So
not as fun.
maybe the
I like
answer's
that.
yeah, maybe the answer's catching, but
There you
I
go.
don't know. Like,
I find it kind of twofold. The catching's not as fun if you don't get to cook it, and the cooking's not as fun if you didn't catch it.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, that's probably the right answer right there.
Yeah. So catch and cook. It's a good way to end this. I want to thank you very much for coming on. It was an awesome conversation. A lot of fun getting to learn about a lot of the cooking and kind of get a because we do I guess get to see what the other side of the other half of catch and cook is, right? We obviously all see a lot of Jay on YouTube and stuff, and it's nice seeing you more and more on there as well. But it's nice getting to see what the other half of the operation kind of looks like, and kind of where I guess that half kind of is built from, right? With all your experiences and whatnot. So thank you very much for coming on. Um,
Really appreciate it.
yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. I guess where before we let you go, where can everyone find you? Just plug yourself here.
Yeah, I mean, just at Josh Mcfadds on Instagram is an easy spot. Catch and Cook always. Catch Cook Coatings on Instagram. We'll probably be doing a little more uploading as well soon on our Catch and Cook YouTube channel. And then I've got a program called Fed by Fire in the works right now, so we're supplementing kind of before the release of the whole show with a bunch of YouTube content. So Fed by Fire is a YouTube channel that you can go check out as well, and I'm filming tomorrow for it, so that's kind of always in the works as well.
Awesome. I'll be checking that out for sure. Hit that subscribe button
Thanks,
after this
fellas.
interview. Yeah. Thank you very much
Yeah,
for
man,
coming on.
absolutely.
Absolutely.